So, you find yourself on the UnrealEntGaming channel. How fortunate for you. I, Lord Frieza, will spare your life as long as you subscribe and turn on notifications. Also, don't forget to become a member of UnrealEntGaming's Patreon for tons of exclusive content to early access media and much more. Do it now, or else.
So with Dragon Ball Daima Episode 1 having to introduce and open up a brand new world that happens to include the Demon Realm, alongside having to introduce brand new characters such as the evil Kaioshin known as Degesu, the heir apparent to Demon King Deborah's throne, that having to be Goma, surprisingly enough yet another sibling related to the Supreme Kai within the Demon Realm outside of Degesu that goes by the name of Dr. Arinsu. Our story now continues following the event of a surprising wish made by a sinister Namekian that goes by the name of Neba, as I want to welcome you all to my Dragon Ball Daima anime episode number 2 review. And from the very beginning, what I will start off by saying is that the intro is absolute fire, and the reason why I say this is because this only gives me so much more hope looking forward to whenever Toei decides to animate the event of the Dragon Ball Super manga, which includes Moro, Granolah, things of that nature, you know, which in all honesty I'm going to say that this was probably one of the most beautiful looking openings for any Dragon Ball series that I could recall. So whoever was essentially behind the opening and the ending acts of Dragon Ball Daima needs to be brought back for Dragon Ball Super whenever they start animating that. And so what I will say from the very beginning, what I really liked about this episode was the fact that the villains in this case immediately wasted no time by having to snatch little baby Dende right out of Popo's hands. So from the very beginning, we already see these demons steal the Guardian, take the Guardian, kidnap the Guardian of Earth, and pretty much end up leaving little Popo behind, which little Popo, I will say, looked really weird. I'm not really used to seeing Popo that way because we're really not used to seeing Popo the way he was shown in this episode, which was pretty cool. But even then, when having to go back to our heroes and taking a look at what happened during the events of Trunks' birthday party, well, surprise, surprise, everyone's a kid, or at least in this case, some of them are babies, like Goten and Trunks, right? So I've said this before and I'll say it again, I was never, ever a fan of the plot for the premise of this overall series, because if you simply want to go as far as to watch peak at its finest when seeing little Goku and friends go on adventures, then you can essentially just go back and turn on OG Dragon Ball, because OG Dragon Ball will give you all of that and then some. So to see everyone as a kid, I was not a fan of, because again, I'm not a fan of having to see our characters revert back to being little children, except for one, and that of course was none other than Kid Vegeta, because we really never got to see Kid Vegeta like that, you know, or at least in this case, especially during modern times and having to see Kid Vegeta interact with anyone. So he was annoyed, he was frustrated, he was grumpy, he was angry, and that all fits the criteria of what we remembered Vegeta being like in Dragon Ball Z. So for what it's worth, I really enjoyed that until we ended up going on to the lookout. And so the moment we got onto the lookout, before Kibito went as far as to bring on board this rusty, dusty looking ship, it's really weird to see how even while they're little children, Goku and Piccolo are super clumsy, you know what I mean? It kind of reminds me a lot of the old Nickelodeon show, I believe it's the Nickelodeon show Rugrats, you know, because it's really like seeing them stumble and bumble around. I mean, heck, we even went as far as to see Piccolo try to fly only to ram himself into a nearby tree and then cause himself to bleed out from his nose, which really isn't something that we're used to seeing because Piccolo is a master tactician, right? But I understand for the premise of them being children, it's okay. What I will also say is I'm really not used to seeing everyone be a kid, you know, mostly because everyone's normally an adult when you see Kid Goku around, but in this case, I think it might work even though I am not a fan of the overall idea of having to reduce everyone into being children. So ultimately, one of my main takeaways, even though it may seem very minute, was just to simply see them stumble and bumble around, because we've seen what they were like as kids when they fought during the Budokai tournament in OG Dragon Ball and stuff. So they're very cognizant, they're very balanced, and they're very aware. So to see them kind of stumbling around here was a bit weird, but nonetheless, I still think all of the action and all of the goofy sequences kind of work here, because I'm not taking this series as serious as, let's just say, if Moro were to be animated, because with the events that have transpired with Moro, the gravity of the overall situation was very, very grim and very, very serious, whereas here it's a bit different because everyone's essentially just dangling their feet from their chairs while sitting. They look like a bunch of dorks, and that's why I kind of like this a lot, because they're all sitting around this table discussing as to what they're going to do. And mind you, they're children, right? Or at least reduced in this miniature-like forms, but to ultimately kind of see how Goku was later on able to kind of maintain a bit better balance in this miniature form was also cool to see, because it kind of reminds me of Dragon Ball GT when GT Goku also tried to get accustomed to that little body of his, you know? So that's why I feel as though this works, because Goku does in fact actually get used to his little form, although for the time being, he really does have a lot of practice to do, of course, before having to visit Korin later on, which again was also a very nostalgic thing to see because it does take you back to OG Dragon Ball. But one thing that I will say that really, really worked in this episode was Mini Master Roshi, and one of the main reasons for this is because he's no longer 10 million years old, you know what I mean? He's back to his youthful form as a little child, so his swag, his riz is through the roof, because that's all he really cares about, even from the beginning of this episode when he was essentially eyeballing a bunch of girls around him at the party, you know? So at least Master Roshi's nature and his character still remains true, even while as a miniature child, you know? So that was one thing that I really liked about this episode, because you see him putting on different clothes, he's really feeling himself because he no longer has that mustache, he's no longer hunched over, you know? But even when then having to go back to the lookout and seeing Shin, Kibito, Piccolo, and Vegeta, they really don't seem to be kind of taking this entire thing as lighthearted as Goku is, you know? Because that was what Goku was doing throughout this episode. So even while they were trying to talk to Goku by the very end, we end up seeing this strange ship find and land on top of the lookout with everyone seemingly nervous because they don't really know as to what to expect. And then we end up meeting, as soon as he ends up revealing himself, the lone gunman known as Glorio. And right off the gate, when I see this guy, all I keep thinking about is Mira from Dragon Ball Xenoverse, from Dragon Ball Online. So I'm just going to be honest and say that I'm really, really not a fan of this character's overall design, because you really can't sit there and say that you don't see Mira every single time you look at Glorio, because their designs are kind of relatively the same. But outside of just having to nitpick his design, I liked how they introduced him from the very beginning, because he didn't go as far as to try to make friends, he didn't even go as far as to try to make enemies either. But it was also a little weird by the very end to see the only person that decided to go on board of Glorio's ship was in fact Goku, while everyone else was watching him leave the planet, right? Because you would only hope that either maybe Piccolo would go with him, Vegeta, but no, they ended up staying behind, which for all intents and purposes I can understand, which this was the one thing that bothered me about the episode, and that was just simply getting into all of the exposition of having to explain everything, which is completely fine. But the character of Glorio, which was supposed to be the main focus of this episode, ended up showing up by the very end, and it was only about just a few minutes of him just, you know, interacting with everyone and just simply having to talk Goku into joining him, into now having to venture off into the demon realm. So I kind of feel as though maybe certain things could have been cut out in order for them to either further include the character of Glorio by having to kind of go into more detail as to why he's here, or maybe even hell go as far as to showcase Goku and Glorio going right into the demon realm, you know? Because we also know that they're going to meet another character that goes by the name of Pansy later on too, so it only makes you kind of go as far as to question certain things, especially with how you saw them kind of perform or more or less go about using their bodies as children, because they're not really used to it. And with all of them being as clumsy as they are, and with all of them being very inexperienced by having to kind of go as far as to get adjusted in these little bodies, it only begs the question as to how they're going to do against maybe the Tamagamis, which are essentially guardians of the Demon Realm's Dragon Balls, right? You know what I mean? And I really do hope that they end up improving on this and they allow for our characters to get better adjusted in their bodies, because if they simply go as far as to slip and fall and just be clumsy and whatnot, it kind of takes away a lot of the elements from what this is supposed to be, which we know that even as children, right? Because we've seen it before in GT and OG Dragon Ball, that these little squirts can pack a punch even while miniaturized. So all in all, the episode was fun. It was extremely goofy, nothing serious or nothing that went as far as to go too deep into venturing on over into the lore of the Demon Realm, or at least not yet. So the episode was enjoyable for what it was worth. It was goofy, it was fun. Don't expect any action-packed sequences or anything of the sorts that builds tension around our characters, because I mean, what can you really do? They're mini-sized, they're trying trying to get adjusted to their bodies, and by the very end we get the introduction of a new gunman that ends up coming onto Kame's lookout, with of course Goku volunteering with his power pole, mind you, which was pretty cool, to actually leave and go off with Glorio into the demon realm. So, but even now by the very end, I want to go ahead and get your thoughts and opinions down in the comment section below in regards to how you guys felt and what you guys thought about Dragon Ball Daima episode 2, along with also giving us your thoughts and predictions going into Dragon Ball Daima episode 3, because I think with everything that we've seen transpire during episode 1 and episode 2, does it only go as far as to tell me that Goma isn't really going to be the main baddie of this series. So I have this really strange feeling down the line that we're gonna see somewhat of a massive swerve take place involving the demons from the demon realm. And so let us know your thoughts and comments down below on what you guys expect to see going into episode 3, and more importantly, did you guys happen to enjoy Dragon Ball Daima episode 2? Let the world know what you guys think down in the comment section below. Again, I want to thank you all so much for being here. As always, everybody, thank you all so much for watching. To which, once more, if you also just so happen to be new to the channel, then I do humbly encourage you guys to head on over and smash that subscribe button on top of turning on all notifications, so that way you guys never miss a single video that is posted onto the channel. Tune back in for more. Thank you all so much for being here, and with that being said, I will be seeing each and every single one of you down in the comment section below and in the next video. Take it easy, guys, and have a great day. Peace.
Hello! Did you know that you can stay up to date with the latest Dragon Ball content by simply subscribing to UnrealEntGaming?
Also, don't forget to follow on these social media platforms, you sexy son of a bitch.
Roshi!
Silent Cell, me and the fans are having a moment. That's right. I know what you want. Extra long, thick Dragon Ball content. Quality reviews with flawless editing. Yeah, you'd like that, wouldn't you? You dirty bitch.
Roshi, the fuck?
God damn it, I need them to subscribe, Cell.
And we're demonetized.
Yeah, screw it. Let's cut to the video.